Oh, you have to bury a body within 24 hours.
Judaism and some, yeah, I talked about that a little bit last week.
And I had to miss the one I was hanging out for.
Um,
I'm thinking I have to plan ahead.
all right, well, we can start with last week and then move into this week. How about that?
Well, there are options to the Jewish.
So, all right, so let me just, we'll start with last week and answer some questions and talk a little bit, because last week we were talking about rituals and customs of death. And one of the things I did say last week is that in the Jewish tradition, we try and bury as soon as possible. But that is, of course,
Julie?
No.
Julie.
That's Julie.
I thought your special package. Oh, okay.
That is.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, I'm the teacher. If you're interested, contact me. Elizabeth.
Thursdays, right?
Alicia. Hi, okay, bye-bye.
We try and bury as quickly as possible, but that's within reasonable,
Okay,
so I mean, there are cases where it's just not reasonable because legal reasons, family reasons.
Mine was just Columbia County. It takes them 2 months to getting around to the desert.
Yeah, well, you don't have to have a death certificate to be buried.
Okay.
You have to be dead to be buried. And that, of course,
And then my only other
doesn't require a certificate.
So my only other question about that was the Jewish cemetery here. They have like other burial options, like green burial, the burial with the tree, and so on, or not? Somebody told me.
Well, first of all Jewish burials are green burials.
Okay.
Okay, we do not ever do embalming.
Oh.
And so all Jewish burials are natural, and all Jewish caskets are only wood with no metal and no nails. So all meant to do fun. We do not do in the cemetery they have some things like pods that turn into trees or things like that. We don't do that. That would be a difficult thing in a traditional cemetery to do, because we don't have trees everywhere. But that, so all of our burials are green burials. Okay. But we have some special circumstances from time to time, and we work with the individuals on meeting their needs.
But given that the goal is to bury as soon as possible, it definitely is probably good to make advance arrangements.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's good not because of that. It doesn't take, it's not like, we dig the hole 2 years and, I mean, it's not that. It's good to make advance arrangements to alleviate anxiety and angst at a time when it's a lot of pressure and a lot of sadness. You don't really want to make decisions during that. So yes, it's good to make. And some people ask me, well, what if I'm married to someone who's not Jewish and we want to be buried together? In our cemetery, we have a separate section where Jews can be buried with non-Jewish spouses. It's separate from the Jewish cemetery, but on the same property.
Where's the Jewish cemetery?
It is on the corner of Waldo Road and University.
Okay, Waldo
Road and University. It's 100, and we have one of the oldest Jewish cemeteries in the state. It's
Yeah.
over 150 years old, goes back before the Civil War. And it has a very interesting history to it. And if you do ever want to go to the cemetery, no. Yeah, that
You're
too.
dying to get in.
You can visit there in advance. I'd say that's a much better way of visiting the cemetery.
You learn more that way.
More that way. How can you visit? You drive your car to Waldo and University, and you'll read on the gates. It says double high. The combination is double high. So let me explain to you what is high. Does anybody know what high is?
It's the number
High means life.
and the numerical value of the word high is 18.
18. So what's double high?
18, 18 or
1818.
Yeah.
So the combination on the gate is 1818. And you see how clever I am that I posted the combination on the gate in such a way to keep out people who think I'm talking about chai tea.
Yeah.
So they close it behind you when you go in?
Yes, you should definitely be the polite way.
What's
to
the
do it.
name of the cemetery?
No, I mean when you're in.
When you're inside, you close it behind you and there's a little hook that you put on
What was the name of the
it.
cemetery?
The name of the cemetery is B'nai Israel Cemetery. That we didn't get so creative on. The lock, we were over the top with the lock. You wanted us to come up with the name. We're available for naming opportunities if you'd like it to be called the Ricky,
Memorial, yeah.
Memorial Cemetery.
How long do you have to give that before you can be buried?
Usually, roughly a day.
Oh, so there's no time limit.
Time limit. You guys are really egging me on. Yesterday I gave a speech at. Yeah, you're really like testing my limits of humor.
Well, no, it's like, I feel like our ancestors valued their bodies and they bought caves and they respected the body.
Mhm.
And so I really wanna be buried, like I don't have tattoos. And so I wanna be buried in the ground.
Yeah. Well, no. First of all, you don't have to be a member of B'nai Israel. You just have to be either Jewish or not Jewish. And
And someone's gotta pay for the plot.
well, yes, you do have to pay for the plot. Yes, that's right.
It's fairly small, right? It's one block.
That's right. It's one block, but usually,
I see it here.
yeah, it's one block. But it's still very interesting if you go to the cemetery and if you have been on, in the university campus, sometimes you'll recognize names in the cemetery of people who were famous at UF. Who are buried in the cemetery, but also it gives you a little snapshot of the history of Gainesville as you read the plots, and see the generations.
And how much is it?
It is. You'd have to. It's on our website, but I believe it's about $2,000. You just looked it up.
I saw it a few months
Oh,
ago.
Yeah, it's about $2,000
And
for a plot.
and that is.
But it's forever.
So
So it's
that-
Right by the month.
Divided by the month is the best deal in real estate you'll ever have.
that's for like the plot, and then would that include the transportation to and from?
No, you gotta get there on your
And
own.
the wood casket?
No, you gotta get
Sorry.
the caskets up.
Yeah, no, you have to, no, here's what happens.
Well, no,
When
because
a
you have to
person
pay for
dies,
that
it was a good
stuff.
question, Angela, I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to.
And you gotta pay
It's
for
been a
them to
long day,
take
I've
the
been here
roll.
since 7 o'clock.
Rabbi,
Alright.
we
All right,
silly or
yeah.
not.
Yesterday, I gave a speech at Trinity Methodist. And when I finished the speech, the lady came up to me and she said, "Oh, Rabbi, you're so funny." I said, "Do you mean I'm odd or am I humorous? You know, and she said, what? Yeah. Anyway, so what people do is the funeral home handles the details of transportation and casket and all of that. The cemetery provides the spot, but the funeral home contracts with the rabbi and with so there's two parts to it. So most people will go to the funeral home and make their arrangements, and the funeral home will say, "Where do you want to be buried?" And you say, "B'nai Israel," and the funeral will say, "Well, okay, contact B'nai Israel, and here's who to contact there," and you buy the plot, and all of that is done, and it's reserved.
Okay, and they do like payment plans.
Oh yeah.
And start paying now.
Yeah, well, we
But
prefer
actually,
payment upfront.
that no embalming really reduces the price, and it only would.
I'm so sorry. I'm really apologizing.
Check
clarity. Yeah.
And that's how I always said, I said, "Put me in a box, down
Yeah.
there."
Do people that have tattoos, are they allowed to?
Yes.
Yes.
You can, by the way, it's a myth, Angela, that we don't bury people with tattoos. We do bury people with tattoos.
Oh.
So that's a myth. In fact, the truth of the matter is that million Holocaust survivors all had tattoos.
Yeah,
They were among the most honored people in our community.
but
So
that
no,
wasn't their
tattoos
fault.
wasn't their fault, but they had tattoos. No, there's nothing that disqualifies you from being in a Jewish cemetery. You can't if you want to be in a Jewish cemetery. Other than if you don't want to be. All right. But yeah, we're very proud to have that cemetery here in Gainesville.
Sorry for
All right.
interrupting, but I had a lot of questions.
No, do you have any other questions? Because I'm enjoying this.
Well, I just have one last, I'll let you get back to it.
Yeah.
Since I missed the part about customs, I know there's a custom of, I think it's sitting Shiva, the minyan
Yeah.
and so on. But do people still have memorial services at the funeral homes?
Oh,
as well?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. We have, at the end of, there's always a funeral, either at the synagogue or at the funeral home or a graveside.
Thanks.
Yeah, all of those are possibilities. And that's one of the reasons people sometimes will make arrangements in advance, because after you pass away, you don't have.
Plus, I've dealt with people who passed away who had no plans.
Yeah.
He will.
Yeah. But a living will is good, but sometimes I recommend for people who have multiple children or no children, to make these arrangements in advance so that it can be done. All right. And if you think of other questions, just let me know.
Thank you,
Okay.
appreciate it.
I want to talk a little bit about anti-Semitism, which is the topic now for tonight. And I would say, to begin with, we'll start with, where does anti-Semitism come from? And the other day I was in this room and someone said, "Oh, anti-Semitism comes from the church." And that is so incorrect. That's not where anti-Semitism comes from. There was anti-Semitism way, way before the church ever existed, way before Christians ever existed. And you can go back in the Bible, and you can see that, yes, last week we were reading in the Torah portion about Pharaoh and about the oppressing of the Jews. And Pharaoh said, those Jews, this is an interpretation, so it's not literal what I'm about to say, but there's an interpretation. He says, those Jews are like cockroaches. Okay, and they are, Pharaoh said, they are multiplying like insects. And that is a kind of racial prejudice that goes all the way back to biblical times. So, as a minority, anti-Semitism was experienced by Jews for a long time. We have a holiday called Purim, which I've talked about before, which is a holiday that originated in its own. The Purim gives its own sort of history of it. It originated in Persia and in the time of King Antiochus, where again the Jews were being threatened. That's the Book of Esther. And so that is, long time ago, had nothing to do with the church or Christianity. But it is true that for a long, long time, there has been an ancient prejudice or bias against Jews. In a very famous book that I read in college, and it was an old book then, so my God, it's a really old book now, by a scholar named Trachtenberg, who wrote a book called The Devil and the Jews. He was writing on the origins of anti-Semitism. For him, the origins of anti-Semitism come out of ancient pagan beliefs that probably predated anything we really know about Judaism, but Jews were already identified early on as being a group. His book was called The Devil and the Jews. And he identifies what he believes some origins of anti-Semitism in pagan roots that saw the Jews as representing evil. It's hard to know where hate comes from. In general, I think prejudice and hate are bred into human beings as a defense mechanism for self-protection, and that it is less about the group that's hated than it is about the people who are the haters feeling that they need to project enmity someplace for their own self-protection. It's hard to know, but what I will say is that there is a long, long history of prejudice, and fear, and suspicion of Jews that goes across many lands and many cultures in many places, and has persisted, as you know, to this day. It is difficult for me to understand exactly why this persistent prejudice appears in so many places, in so many lands, and across so many cultures. It can be to place it on one group, either Muslims, Christians, or others. Ignores the other group. If it was a Christian thing, then why would Muslims be, concerned in certain times in certain places, not in all times in all places, about Jews?
Is it partly because Jews were exiled in many parts of the world, and so they were the easy outsider to target? Because
Maybe.
travel to so
Maybe.
many lands.
Maybe.
and maintain their identity.
Maybe. I don't know if anybody saw, but this past week, if not, you can see it. This past week, there is a series right now on PBS called Blacks and Jews.
I saw it advertised. I haven't
Okay.
seen it, but I did see
And
it.
you may want to watch it. You may want to watch the first episode at least. I haven't. Only the first episode is out, and I watched it last week. And they make the point in that Jews were seen as another race.
Yes.
Now, for us in America, we think of race as being skin color, but that is not necessarily the case. For some, race also has something to do with ethnic origins, and ethnic origins includes Jews. And by the way, the show is about the fact that Jews were seen as another race, and blacks were seen as another race.
Yes.
And blacks saw Jews not as white.
Blacks saw Jews not as white, and that is also interesting. I mean, there's a lot
And I
there.
don't mean to say that it's their fault. I mean, that's just the system of, they are different than even Christian white people.
However, that's complicated because
Yes. But yes.
And
it
they're
is.
more
for blacks, there are Jews are not only another race, but they're also part of the white race.
Exactly.
Yes.
I think so many people think they think of Jews, they think of white people, and I think that's the Western
And that's not
European.
necessarily
Yeah.
the case. There are Jews who are not
Or
white.
very dark. Yeah. They're very dark.
Yeah. And there are Jews who are African American.
I refer to, well, not, of course now there's African Americans, but even then in the 50s or 40s, it was mostly Jews were white, right? Or they were like.
Eastern
Yes.
European
Yeah,
Jews
they
were mostly white. North African
Yeah.
Jews and
Yeah.
Ethiopian Jews
Yeah.
were not necessarily white. They were some black.
But the primary people here were.
Eastern European Jews who were white. But that wasn't, Ethiopian Jews have black skin. And fastest growing Jewish community today is in Uganda, which are
It's amazing.
blacks.
It's amazing. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
So anyway, I say that anti-Semitism has a long history and has been expressed in a number of ways, number of horrific ways. One of the ways that you mentioned, Ricky, was all the exiles, all the times that Jews were exiled. Before the French Revolution, the idea of citizenship in Europe was not well defined. It wasn't only until around the time of Napoleon that the idea of being the citizen of a nation, you could be granted a citizen of a nation, was clarified. Certainly wasn't before then that Jews could be a citizen of any place. They were a Jew. They were a citizen of no place. Therefore, banishing them for whatever reason from your area was one way to improve the feeling, the outcome. There was bad luck. Crops were going bad. Whatever. Let's get rid of the Jews. Or banishing them from being certain professions and things like that. So Jews were an easy target.
Hey, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Which box are we supposed to check? I mean, I usually do not, there's white, black, Hispanic, whatever, and other. Which one do you check? Which one do we check?
I think today when you're asked that question, what race are you? They are probably asking about your skin color.
Skin color, you think so?
I do think so.
But when they say, are you Latino, that's not about skin color, is it? White,
No,
black,
it's a kind
Hispanic?
of ethnic origin. If you are Latino and you're Jewish, you would say I'm Latino. If
So
you
that's an
are
ethnic origin, not
white
a
and
skin
Jewish,
color.
I would say I'm white. If you're black and Jewish, I would say I'm black. That's how I would answer it.
I see.
But um, the most notorious, well-known, modern horror of anti-Semitism by far is the Holocaust. And I used to show, maybe when Ricky was in this class the first time, I think I used to show a movie on the Holocaust. But maybe I saw maybe a while ago because I think it's so well known. I mean, we all have seen Holocaust movies and know about that period of time. And if you don't know about it, then you can certainly find out about it easily by either watching movies or visiting a Holocaust museum, or the period of time being a very difficult period of time going from 1933 to 1945, when Nazi Germany undertook a program which the historian Lucy Davidowitz called the war against the Jews. And her thesis, her book that came out in the 70s, was that the war, Hitler's war, was really about ethnic cleansing, ethnic purification, which meant that the primary purpose of the war was to get rid of the Jews. And in some ways, she makes the case that one of Germany's downfalls was that they placed more emphasis on exterminating Jews than they did on fighting the war against the Allies in World War II. But 6 million Jews died. Now, when you consider the fact that in the whole world today, this is almost more than 70 years after World War II, there are only 15 million Jews in the world today.
There are 50 or 15?
15. That number, 6 million, is huge. If you go to in the middle of talking about the cemetery, in the middle of our cemetery, you will see a Holocaust memorial stone. It's a large stone. And on the stone is only one image. It's a Jewish star. And the Jewish star has a part of it that's been obliterated. And it's the part of the Jewish people that was eliminated during World War II. It's a big part of the star that's missing. So the Holocaust succeeded in eliminating a large percentage of the entire Jewish population. And we are still, suffering those consequences. It was a horrific time, a horrific difficulty. And I wish I could say that with the elimination of Nazi Germany, anti-Semitism ceased. We know that's not the case. And in fact, we are living now in a time of increased anti-Semitism. There was a hope in 1948 with the establishment of the State of Israel that anti-Semitism would be erased. The State of Israel would now be a symbol of our strength and of our pride and of our own ability to govern our own future. Yet anti-Semitism is as strong today as ever. and as difficult to understand as ever. So it has been a part of us. But what do we do with that knowledge? For the one part of us, I mean, we certainly are sad. We certainly want to have a memorial. We want to remember. We want to be able to let the world remember. And there are those who I come across and who I know who will tell you that they think that the purpose of being a Jew today is to remember the Holocaust and to remember the tragedies that befell the Jews. But I disagree with him. I do think that, of course, we have to remember, but I don't think that's the purpose of who we are. And I don't think I think we do remember who we are. We do build memorials to what happened, but that is not why we are Jewish. And that cannot be the reason to be Jewish, is because anti-Semitism exists. The reason to be Jewish is because we feel that our Jewishness, our tradition, our holy text, our way of life can add to a beautiful life, can add a dimension of meaning to life that is worthwhile. And one of the dimensions of a worthwhile life may be remembering the tragedy that has befallen our people. But that cannot be in my opinion, cannot be the focus of why we are Jewish. We cannot let other people's hate be our reason for being. I hesitated when I came across this chapter of whether or not I even wanted to include it or not. But I also felt for those of us, how could we do an introduction to Judaism and not mention the fact that there are those who hate Jews? And there are those who, to this day, feel that there is something other about Jews.
So
Yeah.
we have more security at the synagogue now than we did when I first came here 10 or 15 years ago. Are we
Yeah.
responding to today's political situation, or are we getting specific threats?
We're responding to the idea that there have been a number of specific incidences of anti-Semitism after the Pittsburgh shooting.
Yes. Yes.
There was a concerted effort by Jewish communities to say, we are going to do what our friends in Europe have done for a long, long time, in Europe and in Israel, have done for a long, long time. And that is to provide security in the synagogue. It was not, it was novel for us in America. We thought in America we didn't have to do that. That was something they did in Europe. It was something they did in Israel.
Never happens here.
But that would never happen here.
Yes.
And then it happened here. And then we said, we want our people to keep coming. We want our school to still be open. We need to show that we're willing to respond.
But do we generally feel that Gainesville's a pretty safe? I don't feel like I've encountered a lot of.
No, I don't think it has anything to do with Gainesville.
Okay, it's just
I
responding
think
to
it
the-
has to do with the fact that Jewish organizations have felt the need to provide a visible symbol of safety for its members and for its people. And does it guarantee us safety? Well, nothing can guarantee us safety. Does it might it give someone who means to cause harm a second thought about whether they would attack a synagogue? Oh, maybe. If I don't participate in that, the question is then, am I the one synagogue who says, yeah, we're so good in Gainesville, we don't need it.
And
You
then something
need it in
happens.
New Jersey,
Yeah.
and then if it happens here, of course, it'll be
So
So-
this is the Gainesville Police Department, right? You have to pay them? or-
yeah, we pay them $60 an hour.
Sheriff's Department too.
Now we happen to use the sheriff's department, but $60 an hour, and it's 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. Add it up.
Yeah, there was a man in Gainesville who got arrested because he lived in, like, near here. But
It's a few blocks from here. Yeah.
he threatened to do something to a synagogue in Jacksonville,
Tallahassee.
Tallahassee. And now.
I'm not exactly sure why he didn't think about the synagogue 2 blocks from his house, but I think
Well, I'm kind of grateful.
He's a gay-
no, I mean,
Yeah.
look, there are unbalanced people everywhere.
Yes.
Look, we live in a world where, how many years ago? Wasn't that many years ago? At a movie theater in,
Colorado.
no, here in Florida, down the road, and before you get to Tampa, someone was shot in a movie
Oh.
theater. I mean, but they were using their phone during the movie, and someone took out a gun. Shot.
Well, what do you expect?
Well, yeah.
Oh,
Like in a-
right.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm in the point is, the thing is, anything could happen, but it makes me I want to tell you, it makes me very, very sad. In a few months, over the next year, you're going to see that there's going to be a gate built in front of this synagogue that will open and close. You'll have to have I'll give you a card so that to come into the synagogue, you have to swipe the card.
So it's gonna be harder for people who've never been here to,
People who've never been here are going to have to stop and speak to the security officer.
and that's gonna be
on the-
another expense and.
Yeah, well, we already have a security officer, so I
Oh.
mean, but they'll have to speak to the security officer and say why they're
That might be cheaper
here. It might be cheaper.
than the 8 times 60 times.
You may be.
I'm just
Yeah, I mean,
thinking.
yeah. I think after I retire, I'm gonna become a security guard. But anyway, I see me out front, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No, I mean, but it makes me sad from the idea of ideally, I think places of worship should be open and inviting and should be, please come in. But we are also a school here. I mean, we're a preschool, and there isn't a preschool in the country or a school. If you go to any public school in Gainesville, what are you going to find? You're going to find a fence around it.
Right.
That's true.
I mean,
And it's locked down
and
because.
it's locked down. I mean, so we have a school here that's open 5 days, 7 days a week, actually. I mean, we're a school.
Yeah.
So if we have to we're putting this fence up because we're a school.
Make it
And we closed off this parking lot because
That would
People-
be required, right, for this.
people use the parking lot for jogging, a jogging path. But we couldn't have people jogging through the school area when we had kids coming in and out,
Yeah.
and neighbors were angry with us, but if you go to any school in Gainesville, you'll see that there's a fence around.
Wasn't it one of the requirements, something for having a school here,
Yeah, well, we had an inspection by the Department of Homeland Security because we're a school. And they said, are you people crazy? You need a fence. you know,
So sad.
and that's why there's going to be a fence out front, which we actually told them no, we couldn't do it.
Mhm.
You know, we gave a lot of reasons we couldn't do it. It wouldn't go with the architecture. I mean, we put up a lot of fight, because I didn't want to do it, and we lost. But
Who decided?
who decided that we would do it?
Yeah.
Well, it was Homeland Security, the Department of Homeland Security, who said you needed to put up a gate in the front.
When was
It was about 5 years ago, but we sort of dragged our feet.
Wow, so
We
it's
couldn't find somebody who knew how to build a fence, actually, we told them.
Sounds like it's going up.
We're not handy.
Is the
You said we're not
fence-
handy.
We're not very good with straight lines,
Yeah.
yeah.
The gate over here, is that like available to anyone who's a member or?
Yeah.
Okay.
you get used to all the security, like in France, there's security everywhere.
Yeah, you get used to it. Israel,
Yeah, in
Israel, you get security everywhere. I always tell Liza probably has heard me tell this story maybe. For years ago, when I went to a movie theater in Israel, I was by myself on my year in Israel, and Rebecca and the kids were back in the States, and there was a movie playing, and it was an American movie, and I wanted to see it. So I had never been to a movie theater in Israel, so I went to the theater one night. I walked by myself. And I go to the theater, and I buy a ticket, and I'm gonna go in, and the guard at the door says, and I was learning Hebrew, by the way, I was just learning Hebrew. He says neshek, and I know that word from the Bible, which means kiss. And I'm like, see what movie theater I'm in, you know, that word means weapon, kiss of death, in Hebrew, in modern Hebrew. So he was asking me before I came in, did I have a weapon? I was afraid he was asking me something else.
Yeah.
Which
You
is
know.
worse.
Yeah.
Well, how did you figure it out?
I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, oh, do you have a gun? And I said, oh. Hashtag. Kiss of death. Yeah, then I figured it out. All right. So anyway, security is there. And I don't want to dwell on the negatives of anti-Semitism or say that we live our life in fear. I really don't live life in fear. I really will tell you that, if anything, we have to learn to know that hatred is a part of the world. And what anti-Semitism teaches me is that I have to do my best to show everybody that racial prejudice and hatred are not appropriate ways to act in this world. Yeah, that's my response to anti-Semitism. And if anything, we should be more sensitive, more responsive when we see other people suffering and victims of hate. Yesterday, my talk at the church was about Jewish worship. Now, a big group from that church is going to come to services one day. They want to see our services.
What church were you?
I was at Trinity Methodist.
Right.
It's a big church. It's a big church.
They're good people.
Yeah, and anyway, so one of the things I was talking about was Jewish prayer. At the end of the talk, I talked about Abraham Joshua Heschel. And Heschel, who died in the 60s, was a Jewish philosopher who marched with Martin Luther King. And Abraham Heschel marched with Martin Luther King. And when asked about why he marched with King in a television interview on CBS, he says, when I march, I am praying with my feet. And when I gave my talk yesterday and I talked about Jewish prayer, I ended with the idea that our prayer is not just in the synagogue. Our prayer is not just in our hearts. Sometimes we pray with our feet too, when we show that we're willing to stand up for other people and we're willing to be part of a world that wants to eliminate hate and prejudice.
And Rabbi, that's so wonderful, and I love that. And it's so upsetting to know that a big part of the civil rights movement, we were as Jews a huge part of that movement. Yet to this day, there's so much anti-Semitism in the African American community, despite all the gains and all the help that we've, in the historically Black universities. We were a big part of the system.
Well, let me recommend you continue to watch that show, Blacks and Jews. A little bit of insight on that, because it's not quite as simple.
I know, it's just too
I can
bad.
tell you that, unfortunately, I can't be 100% proud of our fellow Jews and what they did. Yes, Jews were a big part of civil rights, but they were also a big part of oppressive actions as well.
So other than marching with and praying with your feet, doing the marches, what other things can you do proactively to speak out about the hate that's going on?
I'll leave that to you. I would say, just attitudes, way of being, showing kindness to others. I think I can't give you one specific answer. I think you have to look for things in the world.
I think one of the things is if they show, the research always shows that when you actually get to know people, like if you put yourself into groups that they're different and you get to know people one-on-one, we do get along, right? We do get to know each other and respect each other. But if you don't know anything about the group, then you just have your prejudice. I think we all have prejudice. I think we all do.
I think that's true. And I think that, but I also think that you're right, 100% right. Showing kindness towards other people, even who are in another race or in another ethnic group, showing kindness, reaching out to them, maybe welcoming a stranger, maybe showing a new immigrant a kind word. All of these things are good. I mean, but I can't give you any, one little thing.
Well, I like the idea of praying with your feet.
Yeah. I think that's, you can find many ways of using our actions. And I think Heschel had some great insight that in our tradition, there are many ways to express connection with the divine, a larger connection. All right, thank you very much. We'll have 2 more classes after this.
Okay. 2 more.
2 more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a break and then it starts again?
Yeah, well, that's the way the world goes.
Okay.
Yeah. Then a break and then it starts again. Maybe a little longer break. And then it starts again. I might need a little rest.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Rabbi.
Bye-bye.